Happy Friday, everyone. Unfortunately, Scott LaFlamme is under the weather, so Zoe Wolf, the Vice Chair of the Town Council, and I, Karen Orenstein, the Chair of the Town Council, are going to jump in and do the Friday Five. But instead of doing 5 different things, we're going to talk about one issue that is currently the talk of the town, and that is the Royal River Pump Station.
Karen, we're getting a lot of questions about the Royal River Pump Station. How did we get here? Did we see this coming? Why is this happening now? And why are we not just paying for this project using sewer fees? Why is it going to the bond issue in November?
Great questions, and since we're getting them from so many people, we thought rather than just respond individually by email to everyone, we're going to provide this information to everybody by doing this video. So first question is, where is the Royal River Station located? What are we even talking about?
As a lover of the Royal River Park myself, I can tell you that the Royal River Pump Station is located just east of the Row School, down by the water, by an area I fondly know as the duck encampment. Right on the Royal River there, as you're walking past some beautiful trees and some beautiful ducks, you will see a beautiful pump station, and that is the Royal River Pump Station.
And then the question is this pump station at capacity right now?
Not at capacity. According to our town engineer, it is nearing capacity, which is an important distinction. So we are not in active crisis. We are looking forward and making sure that crisis is averted.
And if we were to build all the buildings that have been approved at this point by our planning board and our planning department, where would we be with this pump station?
At capacity.
At capacity, actually a little bit above it. So this is definitely the time to be working on a replacement and an upgrade for the pump station. So one of the questions we've gotten is, well, how do we even know that we have this problem, and why didn't we know this before? And so all of our equipment in town is pretty old at this point. And so we've known for a while that equipment would need to be replaced, but sometimes you don't know how close you are to replacement until something happens. And the thing that happened for the Royal River Pump Station happened in January of 2024. We received 14 inches of snow and 2 inches of rain in a short amount of time. And when it melted, and when the rain melted the snow and went into the system, it overloaded the system, and we had what's called an overflow event. And that's when this diluted sewage comes out of the pump station and seeps down towards the river. And when that happens, we have to close the clam flats for a number of days, and we have to report it to the state. But that was our warning, that we are, in a situation where we need to be looking at the capacity.
I think another big question that's coming up from people is regarding the Railroad Square project and capacity, because this is a big project that a lot of folks know about in town. Thus far, 66 units have been approved, and so folks are really asking, why was this project approved if our pump station was nearing capacity?
So let's talk about the Railroad Square project. This project first came before the planning board in late 2020, and it has been moving forward in various iterations since then. So remember this storm event that happened in 2024, that happened right around the time that a new development team was coming to the planning board with development plans for the project. And at that point, the town engineer weighed in and said, we want to make sure we have enough capacity to connect this project to the sewer. And so the next step was that a study was done of the wastewater capacity for that area. That includes the Royal River Pump Station. And that study was paid for entirely by the development team at Railroad Square. The report didn't come back to us until March of 2025. And when it did, we saw that if all of Railroad Square is built, not just the 66 units that you noted were approved, but another 33 units, we would be just over capacity. There's only so much you can push through the pipe that we have right now. So not only does the pump station itself need to be upgraded to pass more sewage through, but the pipe that it goes into has to be big enough to take that sewage and convey it down to our water treatment plant.
So regarding Railroad Square and the project, have they met the financial obligations that they need to in regards to the planning process and the sewage?
Yeah, so that goes back to your question. Like I said, I didn't answer it fully, which is, why was it approved when we have this sewer issue? So the planning board often will approve projects with conditions, and that's what they did in this case. And the condition was, you got to figure out the sewer capacity problem. And it conditioned approval on working with the town and sharing the cost of any impact that they were affecting. And so not only did they pay for the wastewater study, but they are paying half of the expense of a very expensive upgrade to one of the two impellers at the Royal River Pump Station. So when we did this wastewater capacity study, the engineers were looking at what we currently have. And we have these two impellers. One of them is working at only 71% of its capacity, what they call its nameplate capacity, what it should be able to push through the system. And so Railroad Square is going to help to pay to bring that up to 100% so that we are pushing through as much as can be pushed through the pump station with the current equipment. As for replacing the whole pump station, that's not something that they are required to pay for because they're only required to pay for what is equitably their share of this. And 2/3 of the town is using this pump station. It's not just them. They're just the latest development to be impacting the capacity. Okay, Zoe, we're going to have a bond on the November ballot. What is that about?
The bond on the November ballot is a $7.5 million bond to improve the Royal River Pump Station, to replace the Royal River Pump Station.
And this is a pump station that's been around for a long time. It was built in the 1960s. It was last upgraded in 1991 based on anticipated growth that we've now surpassed. And with our growth plan and the comprehensive plan, we expect to continue surpassing. So it's always been on the horizon as something that would need to be replaced.
I also might add that it's really important to improve and replace public infrastructure projects when it comes time, because it's an agreement we have about how we want to grow our community in a smart and environmentally conscious way.
Right. In our comprehensive plan and our climate action plan, we talk about the importance of growing in the growth area, which is where this pump station is located. So Zoe, how does the town pay for expensive capital improvements like a $7.5 million pump station?
Great question, Karen. There are generally two ways to pay for an expensive capital improvements project like this one. One is to be putting money into capital reserves over time, and another is to be looking to the town voters for a bond for a large influx of money that we can then use to do the project in real time. There's also a combination of those things, and that's really what the town is pursuing here. We have a combination approach. We need this bond, and we've been saving over time for other issues that have been needing maintenance within the sewer department. Oh my gosh, how did these buckets get here? Just kidding, I know how they got here. Karen brought them in to explain some really important answers to some questions folks have been asking about capital improvement funds versus bonds.
Right, so people have been saying, how come all the sewer fees that we've been paying aren't enough to pay for the pump station to be replaced? You know, what have you been doing with our sewer fees? And so I wanted to just use these buckets to explain it. So we estimate in this year's budget that we're going to get $1.095 million in sewer fees. And we can put them into the wastewater capital reserve, and we can put them into the general budget. So imagine this bucket, which is the wastewater operations. So it's the budget amount that we need to run the whole system. So salaries, equipment, fuel, materials, chemicals, all the things that make a wastewater system work are going in here. And this is part of a much bigger bucket, which is our general budget, right? So in the past, when the sewer fees were first instituted, more of it went into this bucket and less of it went into that one. In the last few years, we have flipped this. So 65% of your sewer fees are going into capital reserves, and 35% are going into the general budget. Now, you may have heard people say they're using our sewer fees for general property tax relief. It's not going to help the sewer. And the answer is, whether we put it in here or we put it in here, it is going to maintain the sewer. But if I put nothing in here, if we put all $1 million into capital reserves, well, that's $380,000 this year that I have to fill in this bucket when we get to the setting the tax rate. And if I don't have it from the sewer fees, then yes, we do have to raise it from property taxes. And that's why if I put anything in from the sewer fees into this bucket, you will get property tax relief. It does not mean that the money is being misused. It is still going to the sewer system.
So I have a question about that, Karen.
Sure.
The relief that people are talking about is actually the relief of not having to raise additional funds to pay for ongoing sewer maintenance.
Right. What I should say is that this bucket here is $1.13 million. So the sewer fees don't even cover it. But if we put some in there, that's less money we need to raise from property taxes.
Thank you.
Now, the question about capital reserves, sorry, this bucket here, and why that's not enough to pay for a new bond, we have a special guest to help us understand how those capital reserves are being used in any given budget year.
Oh my gosh, it's Steve Johnson.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Steve Johnson, the town engineer, and again, it's always a pleasure to be here to talk about one of my favorite topics, wastewater. So I think to answer your question is, well, what does that cap reserve funding go for?
Yeah.
So it's not just the pump station that we have. We have quite a few other smaller pump stations, well over 30. We have other pieces of expensive equipment that we need to maintain and that we need to replace on a regular basis. So each year we use some of that capital reserve to contribute to our equipment capital reserves to buy new sewer equipment, including our trucks and our rolling stock, all those special cleaning equipment we need. We also have other things that we need to replace, such as our generators. We have to make sure that those have standby generation when we can't get power to our station. So we have a lot of things that we need to spend that for. Additionally, things tend to crop up. Just this morning, I was down on a site down on Sea Meadows where we've completed a project for replacing a large culvert underneath one of our sewer mains. So that's a significant investment that we need to make to ensure that we can protect our sewer mains that are above it and convey stormwater beneath that sewer pipe. Again, we do other things. We have to replace sewer mains on a regular basis. We have to inspect those sewer mains and make sure that they're renewed so we don't have collapses or we don't have clogs or we don't have maintenance issues that can be very bad. They cause backups into people's homes. We don't want that. So again, there is a lot of things that and a great need that we have at the wastewater plant. We also have done other projects over the years that we have lease purchased. For example, 7 or 8 years ago, we replaced a large piece of wastewater equipment, which was our belt filter press, with 2 new dewatering presses.
Oh, is that the sludge dewatering press?
Sludge dewatering, absolutely. And so those pieces of equipment were quite pricey that we used a portion of the sewer fees for and did a lease purchase. We're buying it over time, so we have to make that lease payment every year, which is about $122,000. So there's a lot of things.
That's a good example of both saving in the capital reserve and paying over time because something is just that expensive.
Exactly. I mean, the project itself was a little over $1 million, and so we funded about $300,000 for that, and the remainder of about $1 million through lease purchase, so that we still had some funding that was going towards servicing the debt, but we still had funding to do other projects that we still need to do.
Thank you so much, Steve.
I'm happy to be here and happy to chat today.
So Zoe, some people have asked, well, what about the water fees that get collected? Where do they go?
It's a great question. The Yarmouth Water District is actually a separate entity from the town entirely. And so the Yarmouth Water District, who you may remember voting for an official, for the
trustee.
A trustee, exactly, for the Water District in June. It runs as its own entity, sets its own rates, does its own capital improvement projects, and the town doesn't have a say in that process because it's an entirely separate entity.
So we're not collecting that money?
We are not collecting that money.
Okay.
Not ours.
All right, and then there's the next big question. Are taxes going to go up to pay for the Royal River pump station bond?
It's a great question, and I think it's one that a lot of people are really concerned about given the complexities of this tax year.
Yeah, so one of the complexities of the tax year is that we are waiting for the county assessor's office to finalize the assessments. We all went through revaluation. That's a whole other video. But we're waiting for that number to be finalized. We think it'll happen the next week, and then we will be able to commit taxes after that. And just a reminder, when your house value goes up, we don't collect more money than we need for the budget. We wait to see what the assessor says is the total amount of property value in town, and then we determine what the apportionment should be based on values. So we will only collect the amount of money that is needed to support the general budget.
So Karen, you mentioned how we go about setting the mill rate to support the budget that we've created for the fiscal year 26. And I just want to remind folks, and we will have more conversations about this certainly in the months to come, that our budget process is a very careful, long public-facing process that involves a line item by line item review of each department's budget, looking at not just the overarching budget for that department, but down to the $1,000 expenditure, and asking really tough questions of our town staff about what they need, what they can do without, and how we get the most out of our taxpayer dollar in this town to continue supporting the things that our community really values.
Yeah, and there's a parallel process that happens with the school committee as well. That's also a public-facing process that you can participate in. So once we have final numbers on taxes, we will come back to you and we will present to you our math on how we can proceed in a fiscally responsible way with this bond. And once we're able to show you and demonstrate that we have a path forward that is fiscally responsible, that allows our community to continue to grow pursuant to the comprehensive plan, we'll ask you to vote for that bond in November.
We really appreciate everybody's participation in this process, the questions that folks have sent in, the folks who've been attending our meetings. We are incredibly grateful to be able to serve the town, and we look forward to questions that come as we move closer to that vote in November.
So have a great weekend, everybody, and Scott, we hope you're feeling better.